Hello, Phantomaniacs! Welcome to the newest unboxing here on the Needless Things YouTube channel. By vote at audiblearmy.com, the members of the Audible Army determined that today the review for the Mezco 112 Collective Storm Shadow would go up. It was between this and starting to review the new wave of Ultimates from Super 7, and 55% to 45%, Storm Shadow won out. So this is the one the Audible Army wanted to see first. I think 112 Collective, it's the greatest line of action figures ever made. They take their time, obviously, but once you get them in hand, they're worth the wait, and in my opinion, so far, have all been worth every penny. So Storm Shadow, the iconic ninja from G.I. Joe. In the back of the box, you've got the list of all the accessories, product shot, everything you need to know about what's in here. Let's get down to business, shall we? It's so nice seeing the G.I. Joe logo across so many different products, different brands, or different styles of things. It really is. Mezco did not always include this instruction sheet that explains how the little tiny intricate accessories work. I very much appreciate that they do this now, so we'll take a look at this. Actually, I'm going to give it a little scan right now, because with Snake Eyes, like I brought it out and mentioned it, which, by the way, go watch my review of Snake Eyes if you have not already. I brought out the instruction sheet and pointed it out, and then got to something later in the figure and didn't refer to the instructions, which I'm an instructions guy. But doing a normal, just opening a toy and playing with it for the first time and doing a video are two very different things. So anyway, here are the instructions. I'm going to take in what is on here, so as I get to those things, I will refer back. And the figure already looks pretty killer. I'm stoked about it. And then, of course, we've got product care guidelines, because this is for adult collectors. This is not for children. So it needs to be handled a certain way, and I think there's nothing wrong with pointing that out. Oh, it's snug. So the 112 Collective boxes have changed quite a bit from the beginning of the line, which I believe, I can't ever remember if their first figure was the Dark Knight Returns Batman or one of the Judge Dredds that they did. But I have it. Whichever one it was, I have it. And the boxes were very, very different. And just like Super 7 is doing now, in the interest of cutting costs and continuing to produce excellent products, they changed their packaging some. Now, the interior is the same as it has always been. They have a bunch of trays, and everything is secured in the trays. We've actually got 3 trays for this release, it looks like. Everything is secured in the trays by a lid or another tray. Well, really a lid, because as you can see, each of these trays has its own individual lid. No tape on any of these accessories holding them in place. No ties around the figures. Everything is designed to be as immaculately preserved as it can be. So let's put accessory tray number 1 back here for the time being. We'll put the stand. Actually, we'll go ahead and talk about the stand. We'll get it out of the way. So Mezco, if you don't know, Mezco 112 Collective figures all come with a very similar kind of stand. You will have a round base, get a little protective film on it there, and I will say be careful with these. They'll scratch up, so be careful when you're dealing with these. The stand has a foot peg that is the default design, but each stand also includes an armature designed for jumping, flying, kicking, whatever you want the figure to do. And the easiest way to deal with swapping those parts out, and I am probably going to have Storm Shadow doing some kind of aerial combat, something or other. So flip the stand over, take this side of the armature, and just carefully push it until the peg comes out. Just be careful. As with everything that you do with this figure, be careful. And then you've got the peg. You can see how small that is. And put that right back in there. And then take the armature and plug it into the top of the stand. And that is how the stand works. It is, it's simple and elegant, much like a lightsaber. And then you've got a bag to keep all the accessories in. 112 Collective is the single toy line that I have thus far kept every... Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Let me put that right there. Oh, I've got the film in there. That's why that's not working. 112 Collective is the one toy line thus far that I have kept all of the packaging for, because it's... Well, one, at one time, it was much fancier than it is now, the exterior packaging. But also, it's just the only way to keep everything preserved. There's so many accessories and little bits and pieces that I don't want to put them in just a plastic bag. So anyway, here's the armature. You can see you've got a lot of functionality here, and they work incredibly well. I have figures that have been on my shelf for 5, 6, probably 7. I don't know how long. As a matter of fact, The Dark Knight Returns Batman, potentially the first one of these that was ever released, has been in this position for years, since it came out on my shelf. This is not sagged or drooped at all. So these are the best stands in the business, in my opinion. All right, now let's move over to Storm Shadow himself, Tommy Arashikage. Again, just be careful opening stuff because they're not held in by tape or anything. So if you just yank that top off, potentially stuff might go flying somewhere you don't want it to go flying. You can see you've got his katana and his wakizashi. I apologize for my pronunciation. And I don't even know if that's correct. When I was a kid, I learned from was it Usagi Yojimbo maybe? I don't know. That the shorter sword was a wakizashi. And that's just in my head. I've never looked it up because I learned it when I was a kid, and why would it be any different? So I don't know. He's got a pair of sais. I'm going to do this differently from how I normally do it. Normally, it's a dump and look. This, I'm going to try and keep because I don't know how I'm going to display him. So, huge number of alternate hands here that we will probably be using at different times throughout the review. But you've got C-grips, you've got hands with climbing claws molded in. We'll take a closer look at those. Those will be worth checking out, I think. And then Storm Shadow himself, who, it's interesting to me that his unmasked portrait is the default one that's in the box. I'll go ahead and get these out of here as well, because I'll be obviously looking at both of those. I'm curious, the two masked portraits. My assumption is that one, you know what, I am going to do just a dump out here, because, I mean, he's, regardless of what I decide to do with him, he's going to have his swords. So we'll go ahead and set them to the side. But interesting that he's unmasked in the box. Okay, let's take a look. First of all, what Mezco does, if you're not familiar, is they take sort of every version of the character they take inspiration from, and then, man, the tempo on this is so cool. And then they make their own design. It takes inspiration from everywhere, so chances are it's not like any other Storm Shadow or Snake Eyes or Duke or whatever that you've ever seen. It'll have similarities and it'll pass the fabled squint test, but it's going to be very much its own thing. And that's what I love about 112 Collective, is it's giving you something completely new that feels true to the original original form. So you can see he's got kind of a mix of his original uniform and maybe stuff we've seen in the movies, things we've seen in other figures. We're going to have to zoom in here so you can see everything, because this is very interesting, the way that they've executed the gi and everything else. So that can come completely off, it looks like. Sometimes with the web gear harnesses, belts, whatever, on the 112 Collective figures, they're permanently attached through the soft goods costumes. But this, it looks like if you don't want it on, well, yeah, you can just slide that off entirely. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now just because I want to take a closer look. So, oh my gosh, this is nuts. It is definitely zoom in time. So this harness, tons and tons of detail. And if you look, you can see that his throwing knives are going to go into these slots right here. I would imagine his throwing stars or shuriken or whatever will plug onto these. I think the instructions pretty much covered everything. It's just boring to look at instructions when you can look at the stuff right in front of you. So there's the harness. You can see shuriken can be stored on harness. Throwing knives can be stored on harness. And then the backpack looks like it's going to plug onto the back of the harness here. I'm curious to see how sturdy that is because those pegs don't look thick enough. So actually, I guess that's going right back on him. Well, one, because it's just too cool to leave off. And I will say, if you want just a completely traditional Storm Shadow, if you don't want this kind of interpretation, if you don't want something that toy artisans have poured themselves into, then that's fine. And I get it too, because as the Classified series has gone on, I've realized that some of the designs I really need the traditional look, whereas some I like something more updated. As you can see, they've put the hood on this one. I'll admit right now, I'm not a fan of this. All right. We will wait. Well, no, because it needs, if it's going to go up, it needs to be able to go up. I was going to say I'm not a fan of this Storm Shadow having a hood, which they seem to do a lot lately. But what is this Storm Shadow? As I said, it's new interpretation of the classic costume. So who's to say? Wow, so it fits great. We all know how difficult soft good hoods are to execute at this scale, and it does have a wire in here, so you can really pose this thing and get it to look right sitting on the head. But we are going to pull that right back down and leave it down. And also the wire will keep it down around his neck when you've got the hood down. Look at this. There's actually a seam. The detailing on his undershirt. There's a seam here, and then it comes up to the high neck on the high collar. The Cobra emblem tampoed on, and if you've noticed, there are all of this white tampoed detailing on his gi. That kind of fine design, that's the stuff I love about 112 Collective. And it's on his pants as well. You see right there beside the seams. He's got knee pads that are removable, so if you don't want him to have knee pads, he doesn't have to have knee pads. And those will come right off, and I tell you, I might take them off. I don't love the elastic here. And this is another thing that's typically a limitation on 112 Collective figures. The ankle articulation is just never very good. You've got a little bit of range, but for like ninjas and Spider-Man and things like that, you're just not going to get the best action poses out of them. But for me, 112 Collective is all about the look and design of the figure. And I mean, you do have, look, they've got butterfly shoulder joints. You've got a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows that integrate pretty nicely into the profile and don't look crazy weird. Obviously, this is, it takes away from it a little bit, but when it's a character that doesn't have sleeves, that's what they got to do. The wrists are, let's just pull that right off. I've got a peg here that they've pretty much got the thickness of these down now. And also the hands are softer than they used to be. I have twice broken these little pegs trying to switch hands out, but that was years ago, and they seem to have found the right combination of plastics for the hands and the heads. So his portrait we haven't really looked at. Let me get the instructions out of the way here. His portrait we really haven't looked at too closely. I think it looks good. I like that he's not super young looking. I like that he's a little more experienced Storm Shadow. He looks serious, intense, severe. Hair looks great. Well, let's just... pop that off. Got a definitively styled haircut. Like some thought went into the different lengths of the sculpt here, the hair up here. I think it looks great, but I'm not going to use it. It's cool, but when you've got Storm Shadow, you want a ninja mask on that guy, or at least I do. And this is probably another area where figure photography comes into play. Well, let's go ahead and get both of them out so we can see what the differences are. And I gotta say, 112 Collective was probably one of the lines that first was really taking figure photographers into account. So he's got a more neutral expression, and I mean, this is going to be the one. You got to go with the angry eyes, right? That's great. All right, let's go ahead and just pop that right on there. Oh, interesting. So there is a harder plastic socket inside of the softer plastic head. We didn't really look at the details of the mask. Of course, it's not just a pullover mask. There's plenty of detail on that. But not, but not so much. It's not that overly technical detail where it's too much. They've gone, between, there we go, between the head and the tampo on his gear, the hood goes up over that much better. Ooh, that looks really nice. I don't know which way I'm going to go with this one. Again, this is a different Storm Shadow, so maybe he does keep the hood up on this one. I'm not sure. Did we look enough at I feel like we didn't look enough. I talked about the ankles, but just the design of this armor, storage for nunchucks, and then, in his wrappings. He's got the wrappings here. Might have been nice if these were removable and he had the tattoo underneath. I'm guessing they're not. No, it's not. It's a standard forearm. But I'm okay with that. I think there's enough eye candy here without getting into the tattoo. That wasn't even on the original version. And again, I know this is a new version of Storm Shadow, like I said, but whatever. Okay, what else have we got? Let's take a look at the weapons. I didn't look at the RT. Very, very deep knee bends on these. But again, there's only so much you can do when the ankles don't bend a whole lot. And the articulation on these, as I've said before, it is far superior to any other 1/12 scale figure that you own. However, you do have to work around the soft goods, and that's something a lot of people do not want to do. And I get it. Believe me, I understand if you want, look, I need to be able to... Oh, there's one limitation of the hood. Yeah, would a Ninja have a hood like that? I don't know. That is one thing that, if you don't want to deal with having to... I'm just going to see if I can make this work. I'm probably not going to be able to get it, but that's what the stand is for. I get it. If you don't want to fiddle around with soft goods, trying to make your figures work, that is a reasonable argument, and I understand. I feel like it's so close, but I'm not going to waste your time. Anyway, fantastic articulation on these. You just have to, like I said, work around those soft goods. Okay. The shorter sword, or as I believe it is called, the wakizashi. Immaculately detailed, nice sharp blade. Does not come across like a toy sword. Nice metallic paint on the blade itself. And then its matching katana. They look great. And then we have a couple of sai. Again, the detail is just beautiful. And these are going to be unique to Storm Shadow. It's not like you're going to see these again for Raphael from the Ninja Turtles or anything like that. These accessories from Mezco, they might use blast effects and things again, but things like this are typically unique to the character. And that brings me to, well, let's look at the hands. We've got them out, and I'm going to want to have the hands interact with some accessories, so let's go ahead and take a look. I'd really rather not dump these out. There we go. So you've got, look at that fine detail. That is for the throwing knives or the throwing stars. They will fit, see that right there? Fit right between the thumb and the finger. He's got a pair of maybe just through something hands. And then these are not paired up. So he's got a smoke bomb in that hand. And then this one is sculpted in a chopping or gesturing motion. Kind of odd that he doesn't have both hands available like this. That might be a little bit of a weird decision to me. I've got another hand that's for one specific item. You can see, got tight C-grips right here. Oh, you've got a, for holding the sai, maybe? I'd be scared. No, that's not going to hold the sai. I don't think. And then the climbing claws hands. Lot going on here. All right, set those to the side. And take a look at the last tray of accessories. And thankfully, just like the hands, all the little teeny tiny stuff is in its own little tray. So when you open this, you don't have to worry about, again, things just flying all over the place. So there is, oh gosh, look at this thing. This is beautiful. Wow. So wait a minute. What do we got? Oh, okay. All right, let's set that over here so we can take a closer look. So he's got his scabbard, or scabbards. So that is going to plug. How's that going to work? This is where I should be looking at the instructions again. Oh, wait, there it goes. Okay. So that plugs into place there. And my gosh, doesn't seem very secure. Let's take a look. Here we go. And look at that. I'm wrong. It is completely securely on there. Wow. All right. Good, good. And then, whoa, all of this stuff plugs into there? This is crazy. So then this, first let's get a closer look at this. The blades are completely concealed and covered, which is very important to me. If you've watched other reviews of mine, you know how annoyed I am when the blades are just left out. That's terrible. But here, oh, look at that. Look, how cool is that? Those slots are actually... Now, okay, so I don't mind a blade being visible like that because it looks awesome. So watch. That's actually a slot that goes... you can see the blade through the sheath. And they fit in there just absolutely perfectly. And then... And so you can... This can be it. If you don't want the quiver on there, you're good to go. And then this, I'm trying to figure out what all is going on with this thing. Look at, what is this detail here? It's just cool. It just looks cool. These are all, no way are these individual arrows. That cannot be right. Okay, there are 3 arrows. Whoa, what? Oh my gosh. Oh, you can see, oh, that's great. Look at that design detail. So you can tell which 3 arrows do come out. So it's these, it's that one. That one, and that one. Those 3 arrows come out, and then these are all just window dressing. But that's awesome. Wow, what a great design. And then they just slide back, and you can see as you put them in, you can make sure that they're sliding home. Oh, that is killer. That's such a good design. Okay, let's see how this fits on here. Oh, interesting. Oh, it just clips. Again, I was making that harder than it really needed to be. It just plugs into place. Now, I don't think this is gonna be as snug as the other one. Oh my gosh, and I'm wrong again. Look at that. I mean, it barely did anything when I plugged it into place. It didn't feel like a snap or a click or anything, but it is secure. This is brilliant, and this is why I'm such a fan of Mezco's 112 Collective. This kind of stuff, this brilliant attention to detail is just unparalleled in the toy industry. So there's your look. But wait, there's more. Okay. He has got shuriken being thrown. Oh, that's what that hand is for. Look. All right, let me pop this back out here. Look at that. That's crazy. Those fingers. Okay, so see, there are 2 slots right there. Those fingers go into those slots to create the best throw effect I have seen in a toy. Look at that. Oh, that's wild. Man. Okay. So that goes back in there. We have got his bow with a string, an actual... I am not even going to try and fire one of those arrows because I do not want to lose them. But look at that. Oh, and the bow does... Oh, okay, so this is nuts. Let me get everything off screen here so the camera focuses. So here is the bow. Here is... Right? Works great. Look how strong the hinges are. This collapses. Now, is this for storage or what? It's not showing that that goes on the sheath. Look at that. And it still holds. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, I guess you could just sort of hang it right here. That doesn't seem like typical Mezco design. Like, just sort of put it around there. I don't know. Oh, it's great. Here are all of the tiny little doodads that he comes with. Look. Oh, gosh, I want to put them... Yeah, never mind. I was going to say I'm not going to open them right now because you can see him well enough, but I want to get him loaded out. I want to get his gear. Oh, I'm terrified of these. So he's... Okay. We've got 3 of that throwing star, 6 of that one, which this is the one that's going to plug onto his harness, 6 throwing knives, and then 3 of that kind. So we've got to get at least the stuff that's going to go into his harness out so we can take a look at it. All right, let me do... How many... He's got 3 slots for throwing knives, so... I'm going to do that. Oh, they're not coming out. Why are they not coming out? Oh, come on. These are not for fingernails. These are for clipping through ties and stuff. So I'm not using my grody fingernail clippers in a toy review. I need some fancy, like, modeling tweezers to keep over here, I think. Okay, so that's how tiny this stuff is. So there are the knives. Now let's get... It looks like you can only hold 2 throwing stars. So we'll get 1 and 2. Oh, it's static electricity is clinging them to the tray. All right, and I'm just going to close that right back up and put that right back on top before I lose every single item in this little tray here. Okay, so now let me see if my giant fat man fingers can possibly get this stuff going where it's supposed to go without breaking anything. That's the key, right? Without breaking any of it. But it feels relatively sturdy. All right. So there are, you know, what on any other figure would be just there for show. They're functional. And now, let's see if I can get these little tiny, tiny, tiny throwing stars. And from the start, you notice, oh, there's 6 of these. From the start, Mezco has included multiples of all of the little tiny pieces from their figures because they know we're going to probably lose some. That is such cool detail. All right, what else have we got? Oh, we've got one more little tray of accessories. Thank you for bearing with me. This has been the longest review ever. I had no idea it would go this long, but there's so much cool stuff here. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do a dump on that one. There we go. Nunchucks with chains. Oh, yes. Look, the detail on the handle is fantastic. These are probably the best toy nunchucks. Look at that. The chain is even like, has this thickness to it. It doesn't look like it's some like cheap, like it looks cool. It looks great. It might be a little long, to be honest, but still, these are killer. And they will go either in his hand if you so desire, or they get stored. This might be tricky. Or I might be making it trickier than it really is. That's probably what's happening. So I mentioned that some of the older Mezco stuff, there we go. The bandoliers and kibble and knee pads and whatever else, things like this would be secured to the figure through the soft goods. And I might kind of prefer that. Because this is like some classified slipping around type stuff that I'm not a big fan of. But there we go. Stored on the thigh. And just look at the detail on this. The paint on the buckles and everything. Looks tremendous. Let's see. He has got a smoke bomb that will go on probably that same hand is my guess. Definitely a throwing hand. Yep. Now, it might work with other hands that are in here because all you need is 2 fingers. Actually, you know what? I think that probably should go the other way, shouldn't it? There you go. Oh, look, it says it right there. Look at that. So I looked at the instructions, but I didn't read them. Wakizashi. I don't know how it's pronounced. But Wakizashi. Odachi. Ooh, uh-oh. So I was wrong about the long sword, maybe. Arrows, Wakizashi, Odachi. I've never heard Odachi before. Maybe that's the shorter sword. I don't know. And hand scythes, which with those other cool names, to call these hand scythes seems kind of lame, but they are not lame. They are killer. And those store... Oh my gosh, look at that. I feel like I'm missing something again. Let's just pop that off and take a look. Oh, they do. Okay, I was afraid to push them too far, but they do. They clip into place here and line right up. And that is awesome. And then that, we'll put that right back on there. Nice and snug. And yeah, I think that's everything. This is yet another incredible work of art from Mezco. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, they take a long time to get here. But again, once they're in hand, There are just no better action figures on the market, in my opinion. This is the best made Storm Shadow figure we will ever get, I believe. For figure photography, you're going to love it because you're going to be able to spend hours and hours and hours doing tons and tons of different things with this figure. If you have an appreciation for the art of toy making, then this is absolutely the kind of thing that you should own and should appreciate. But if you just don't need a fancy pants Storm Shadow, then I understand. And Hasbro makes tons of awesome Storm Shadows that will tickle your fancy. But this one, this is, like I said, this is art to me. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends about Needless Things. Come back for my reviews of the Super 7 Ultimates, the 4th Wave, and all kinds of other toys all the time. I love doing this, and I appreciate you hanging out while I do. Until next time,
Smash that like button if you like Needless Things.